I hadn't planned on making this video, but I thought I'd take the opportunity to make it, seeing as I'm currently making some tenons. This is oval shaped bar, which I forge from round bar. This one is forged from 25mm round, so it's got squished down to 20mm flat, and then just a smidge bigger than 25mm wide, because obviously as it flattens down it increases in width a smidge. So my process for making tenons is to mark where the tenon needs to start, and then what I do is I get sort of a slightly long-winded process for it, but I think it's quite good because it's exact. So then on with like a line marked, I cut a shallow line with a hacksaw, like a manual hacksaw, and then I bring, once I've scored that line all the way around, I bring it over to the anvil, and I have this block, this that I forged. Ow, Jesus, the other end of the bar's hot. Just touched my leg. Which I forged, I think, from a piece of railway track or something. And basically, I put the bit on with the, like, so the groove just kind of sits on the edge of that, and then I hit down on top with a copper mallet. So you can see the residual bit of copper there. The reason I hit with a copper mallet is so that if I hit with a steel mallet, it would jigger up this here. So using a copper leaves the nice crisp edge on the here, but the angle of this, affects here, so that I get a bit of a starting. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. Hang on. Yeah, so I get a little bit of a starting corner, and the reason for that is under my fly press I have this kind of butcher tool, which I pretty much copied. It's a fairly well-known sort of mock-up butcher design. The only thing being that mine's under the fly press. So the reason for doing it on the anvil with that little block is because I'm going to try and get this to focus. Come on, focus. I'll have to stand back a little bit, I think, for it to focus. Okay, so the angle on these butchers is the same as the angle on the block over at the anvil. So if I come around this side, it might be slightly, that's better to see, isn't it? So these washers here are stacked up to 16mm, because the tenons that I'm forging are 16mm round. So those are my depth stops. So as I push and pull on the fly press handle. So what I'm going to first of all do is get the bar hot and get it, like the groove that I've created, to sit on within here, and then start pressing more of an angle into it. This is all just made of mild steel, and I don't have a lathe currently. As of 2020, or as of like 2019 when I made this, I didn't have a lathe, so I just had to basically bodge it up. I mean, it works fine, but it's a bit of a unsightly bodge job compared to some of the like beautifully engineered things. So like the reason there's just like little dot welds on here is because this is 20mm tube with a 2mm wall. I didn't want to burn through it, and I welded into the bottom of that 16mm, this is 16mm bar, because 20mm tube minus 4mm, the wall thickness, equals 16mm, so that will just about slot in. I'm making a meal of this now. Yeah, so that's why there's just little dot welds on these, because I didn't want to burn through the wall of the tube, because it's quite thin stuff. So yeah, that spins round and bosh. And then from there, over onto the power hammer, I have another 16mm depth stop. The the top die is not resting on it just yet, but there's a 16mm depth stop, so when I come over, having done the stuff under the fly press, I'll then continue the job over here. There is another part to this process which I didn't mention, but basically the final part to it is that the shoulders on this tenon are a little bit soft and ragged currently. So the final part to it is to get one of these tools called a monkey tool. It's basically like a fairly solid bit of bar with a hole drilled lengthways. I need to cut this down tenon shorter. I think it only needs to be 50mm. It's currently too long. So the idea being that it slots up inside the monkey tool, and you hammer on the back of this, and this this face here neatens up. It knocks all these ragged rounded bits back, so you get left with a crisper, flusher edge to this. But currently, as I say, the tenon is too long, so this is unable to slide back to here, so I need to trim the tenon shorter. The reason for this hole being in the monkey tool is so that you can tell, so you can, when this is hot, you can visually look in and see the tenon in there, and if you're sort of getting into the danger zone, because if you put this on and hammer this back, whilst this is able to touch the end inside, this will start swelling up in the tool at the end and get stuck in there, and then you're in a real pickle.